Hi fans, welcome to Studio Jake. I am so excited to have Amy Lieu on with me. She's the host of her own YouTube channel, and I'm very excited. We've been trying to connect this for some time now, and we finally made it happen. So, Amy, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Jacob, for having me. I'm so honored and excited to be here.
Well, thank you. So, for my viewers who may not be familiar with your channel, let them know what you do.
So, with my channel, I actually host a show called Amy Lieu Presents, and it's basically about empowering women with an Asian American perspective. Even though it's not really just for women and it's not really just for Asian Americans, it's really for everyone to enjoy, for all genders and races to enjoy. It's for a really broad audience, but really the reason why I tailored and I focused it on those particular communities is because I'm a woman and I'm Asian American, and those just happen to be my backgrounds, and that just happens to be part of the community that I want to empower. And also, growing up, growing up, those are the communities I always felt really passionate about empowering, and there's several reasons why. I don't know if you want me to, if there's enough time for
Oh
me to
yeah,
get
please
into
do.
it now. So basically, growing up as a child, watched a lot of, uh, I consumed a lot of media, and I realized in mainstream media, there really wasn't that many images of strong women. I realized a lot of the images of women are subordinate. They're just usually as a foil to the males, and also very sexualized. And it felt like as a woman, I felt kind of diminished, and my role as a woman was diminished. And I wanted to use this show as a platform to empower women and girls. And also, as an Asian American, actually working in the media myself as a journalist and being part of the journalism and media world, I realized that and also consuming a lot of media and news, I realized that the Asian American community is oftentimes underreported, and not also sometimes not as accurately reported. And also in mainstream media too, there's oftentimes the Asian Americans are subjected to stereotypes, a lot of stereotypical characters, such as, oh, they're just the nerds, they're good at math, and also the one of the biggest stereotypes is that the model minority myth. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I'm not.
Oh, Asians, just they have it all together. They don't have any problems. They don't need any help. They don't need any resources, and they just their everything is all good and dandy about them. And so oftentimes they're pitted against other minorities, and like they're the model minority. They're the ideal minority, and that's just a myth. That's called the model minority myth. And
Oh, okay.
so yeah, and I feel like and also the fact, and excuse me, also the impression that all Asians look alike and all Asians are all the same, and but there's just so much. There's a myriad of Asians. There's Thai, Laos, Korean, Japanese, Chinese, and that all from different various countries with different cultures. So I just want to use the show as a platform to really, spread awareness about and also to normalize Asian Americans as a community, and that we're just regular people.
Yeah, exactly. And so, as you're in your role as a journalist, has have you have you seen to like people in your community? Like you said, you want to empower young women. You want to try to eliminate some of the stereotypes about the Asian communities. Have you had representatives? I don't. I hate to use that word, but I don't know how else to put it. But have you had? Oh, you're Amy. I love your YouTube channel. Your videos really help me with this or that. Have you experienced like some positive reinforcement over what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I've had people tell me, and they say that the starting this channel and the show in and of itself um is a not only entrepreneurial, and but also it's also inspires them to want to do whatever they set out to do themselves, whatever, whether it be media or anything that they want, that really whatever they put their heart and soul into, that they can accomplish their dreams and hopes and goals as well. And also, I think that in general, I do feel that there have been comments to me that, I think especially my Instagram, I post empowerment quotes, that I post every other post, I have empowerment quotes. And comments wise, specific comments wise, it's a lot of thumbs up, a lot of like, wow, I really enjoy your quotes that empower women. And also I've had some feedback of people coming up to me. I had a screening at the Monterey Park Library, and which is a local library near me, and did have some feedback about the positive impact that my show has, and also the senior librarian who coordinated the library screening with me, said that people came up to her and there was some positive feedback as well.
Now, apart from video journalism, are you active like in print? Are you active in like online media, or like, I mean, besides your video journalism, which is amazing, what other mediums are you going after?
Well, I have a blog on my website, www.amylieu.com, and I try my best to post as many stories or blog posts as possible. I don't have as much time as I would like to post as often as I would really want. But there was a story that really I felt passionate about, which was recently the United Airlines passenger
Yes.
that was dragged off forcibly removed and dragged down the aisle of the United Airlines aircraft. And I felt compelled to write a story about it on my blog, and I actually did a reactionary video about it, and also did some reporting on my own for my show. So I reached out to my local Congress women and Congress representatives for interviews and also statements. And I reached out to the Department of Transportation for an interview, but they did, although they weren't available for an interview, they released an official statement to me, for which I wrote about and posted the entire official statement on my blog, and also talked about in my video. So whenever I do see these, the reason that is kind of related to my show is because the man happened to be a Vietnamese refugee,
Right.
and that is
And
connected.
a doctor.
And a doctor. And the reason why I felt compelled to do that is also because because my parents came from Vietnam, and they also happen to be Vietnamese refugees too, even though we're ethnically Chinese, so we're Chinese Vietnamese as a background, but they happen to be refugees of the Vietnam War too. So I was like, oh my gosh. And there was this kind of angle that I took as a, part of the Asian American background angle as a part of my show. So that's what I did as a part of my show. So I use my journalism skills to report some stories that I feel relevant as a part of my show. And that's the whole journalism aspect of it that I really want to try to bring to my show, and also and that, which includes the writing portion of it, and then as far as the audio, so the video portion, which is part of the YouTube channel, and then as far as audio, I am stripping the audio, and then I am creating a podcast on iTunes.
Oh, nice.
Which is the audio portion, and I'm going to create a podcast on iTunes. So in addition to the video on YouTube, I'm going to take the video and also going to create a video podcast on iTunes, but also an audio version on iTunes as well. And I'm waiting for that to be approved, and that's going to be launching soon as well. So that's the audio portion. And then the writing portion, I would say, is more so on my blog, amylieu.com, and as much as possible, I try to write stories that are relevant, news stories that are relevant to my to my show, angles that are relevant to my show, And also journalism-wise, I'm still a freelance reporter for the city of El Segundo. I'm one of them, and they have a cable channel there, and I'm one of their reporters. So I cover different events in the city. They send me out, and they have several reporters, and I happen to be one of them. And so I post some of those videos on my YouTube channel as well. And then also, I do plan to stay active as a freelance journalist. I had freelanced as a freelance reporter for NBC News Asian America, and I did a few stories with them. One of them was of which I'm very proud of is covering the comfort women of World War II, and there was a statue in Glendale, and there was some controversy with the surrounding Japanese American community about removing it, and so I covered that story for them for NBC News Asian America, and I loved doing that. And so I definitely do want to and plan to stay active in the journalism community.
Well, that's awesome. That's fantastic. And you know, not I don't want to beat on this for too long, but you know, what was crazy to me about the story you mentioned about the Dr. Dow being dragged off the United flight was that the airline honestly thought people would side with them, and it's like, no, your security roughed up this guy and no one was going to take your side, but you can tell like from the smug memo that the United CEO sent out, and then the tweet that accompanied it, you were just kind of like, I can just see whoever their social media intern was like, all right, if I don't send it out, I'm gonna get fired. If I do, I'm a scumbag. You know, it's like, you know, what do I get? Where do I go
Which
here?
one do I choose? Yeah, I know, and it kind of goes back to if you really kind of think about it, kind of somewhat an argument is the stereotype that Asians are quiet and docile, and that the impression that Asians are just they put their heads down and they don't want to cause any waves and they don't stand up for themselves. So I think that's slowly changing, and I want to be part of that change with my show.
Well, that's really off. That's really awesome, and I want to pivot a little bit because we've talked a little bit about your YouTube channel and your activities as a journalist, which keep up the good work because we need lots of great YouTubers who are going to put stories out there, especially with cable news going away. I think that YouTube platforms like YouTube are going to become the next place people go to get their news. So I don't think cable news is going to go away anytime. You know, maybe at the end of our lifetimes. You know, because I'm assuming you're a millennial. They're going to.
I hope to still look like one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I was assuming you're a millennial. So you know, I really think when the millennials start moving into business and we're getting more involved, I really think platforms like our online platforms are going to become king when it comes to getting your news. So keep up the good work on that and everything. You're doing a fantastic job, and I want to pivot a little bit though. One of the things we talked about this is my vlog. It focuses a lot on pop culture. So I wanted to get your impressions on music and movies that you're excited about. And right now, my favorite song is Coldplay and Chainsmokers, something just like this. And for my viewers, if you haven't heard that song, it's a fantastic song about you don't need fairy tale. You don't need to be your romance doesn't need to be a fairy tale. It just needs to be what it is. It's a great song, and I was just wanted to get your thoughts. What's a song that was released this year that you were just like, or more than one that you were just like, man, I really love this song. I really think everyone should download it for their iPod or whatever. What do you recommend?
Um, you know what, I like that song too.
Yeah, it's a great song.
That's a very catchy song. I actually like um any song that is by a female artist that empowers women. I think really, I really like. I really like the really I really like I was just scrolling through my my Spotify playlist,
Mm-hmm.
and I noticed that a more large majority of my playlists are female artists.
Oh,
So
really?
you
Like
know,
who? Give me an example.
like Beyonce, Adele, Iggy Azalea, Britney Spears, and and uh, Christina Aguilera. So you know, I don't really like. I just turn on the radio, and I guess I never really thought about the newest latest songs,
Hmm.
but I don't I probably the exact name probably escapes me,
Right.
but I also love the classics from the 90s.
Oh yeah,
And
me
so I
too.
have a lot of like I have a lot of Britney Spears I have a lot of Britney Spears songs on my playlist, and I actually have that on her album on a loop. Oh, I love Mariah Carey.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, she's really talented.
so I know they don't have the new releases out, but the ones that I often listen to in my car almost every day are those artists.
Right.
You know, and I think the most I would say the one I listen to a lot is um, my top songs that I listen to a lot are Independent Women, probably by Beyonce. And I know that's not, you know, that recent. And also, there's a song that I really like is Against All Odds by Mariah Carey, which talks about.
I thought that was Phil Collins. I'm kidding.
I know. I love Phil Collins, but she did a rendition of it, and
Oh, it's the same song.
yeah, it's
Oh,
the
okay.
same song. And then she did such a powerful rendition of it, and every time I hear it, I just feel like so empowered. And there's also another one, Thank God I Found You, and that's and I really love that song too. I don't know, I feel really uplifted when I hear her sing these songs, and also a lot of Britney Spears songs.
Are you familiar with Bray Nell? She's kind of a more independent singer. Are you familiar with her work?
What's her name?
Bray Knoll.
Actually, no, I've never heard of her.
She started out here on YouTube and doing covers with Tyler Ward, and now she's starting to do her own stuff, and she's written some of her own songs. I've reviewed her music. She's a fantastic singer, and her vlog is pretty cool too. I follow her vlog as well, but her like you said, her music is just uplifting, really amazing to listen to, and you know, for my viewers, please check out her music as well because I have to admit, for me, I like old music, and so my wife always makes fun of me because I'm always at least 5 years behind the latest music trends. So like on my iPod, it's all like these old songs. I've got you know like Reba McEntire on there, and I've got oh man, who else do I have? Oh, I have Backstreet Boys on my iPod. It's like I've got all these kind of old school '90s artists, like what you were talking about. So no, I totally understand when you're saying, oh, I like this song from so and so. I totally get it.
Yeah, I grew up in the 90s, so I
Yeah,
guess
same here.
I just have the 90s playlist on all the time.
Well, you know what? What I
But
think is funny is, and I'm not going to harp on this too long, but the '90s animated shows were way better than today. You know, I think back about think back, which this might have been early 2000s, but I think about Static Shock, and then Batman the Animated Series, and Spider Man. Obviously, you can tell I'm a nerd, right? That's pretty much all I watch was superhero shows. But you know, even like the old Sonic the Hedgehog stuff, like that was to me, apart from music, the '90s, like the cartoons were just king back then. You know, I've had hard time finding. Yes, I still watch cartoons. All my viewers know this. I've had trouble finding a good animated series since the '90s. I mean, there's a few that pop up here and there, but
you
yeah,
know,
most
have you watched Sailor Moon?
Sailor. Yes, I did watch Sailor Moon.
Oh, I watch Sailor Moon almost like every morning before school religiously.
It came on right the network. It was on UPN 21, and it came on right before Sonic Underground. So that's how I got it. The one I watched was the BIC translation. So it's the one that always ended with "Sailor says." I don't know if you remember that, but and it always
That's fun.
have some
I
moral
like
thing
Pokemon
from the
too.
show.
I like Pokemon too.
I was not a huge Pokemon fan. I was more into like when it came to anime. I was more into Gundam, which was it was actually really hard to find a show that
Did you
did
like
Gundam
Digimon?
shows. Say again.
Did you like Digimon?
Uh, Sometimes.
I
Like
didn't really. I never got into Digimon.
I the I was always into giant robots. So I don't know if you around the same time that Digimon and Pokemon were popular, there was an anime Transformers series called Robots in Disguise. I think in Japan it was called Car Robots, and
Oh,
it came on at the same time as Pokemon. So for me, it was like Pokemon, Transformers. I'm gonna go Transformers. So, but it was on Fox Kids on Saturday mornings. So
what about? There's another one that. Oh, do you like Dragon Ball Z?
yes, I love Dragon Ball Z. My wife actually got me into Dragon Ball Z. I was a late comer to
You
it.
picked the right wife. She has the same
Yeah,
interest as you.
exactly. Yeah, she. Oh, yeah. We would watch because whenever she and I first started dating, like just so you know, I'm a nerd. I collect comic books and all this. And she was like, "Well, have you ever seen Dragon Ball Z?" And I was like, "Oh, I saw Dragon Ball Evolution." And I was like, that totally turned me off. It was the live action movie that was so terrible. I don't know if you saw that, but it was just a bad movie. And so she's like, no, 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 you need to watch the show. Dragon Ball Z is so much better. And so she actually got me plugged into Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Actually, I was thinking about the music thing. I think EDM, electronic dance music,
Oh,
has taken over the scene.
yeah, I
Really.
agree.
And I think that's, and come to think of it, I actually like Zed and Alesso and Calvin Harris. If
Really?
like those like uh, those electronic dance music artists.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
I,
like?
I'm not as familiar with those three, but I am familiar with the genre. That is a really awesome. That is really awesome music.
Oh, you know what? I come to think of it, I actually really like R&B and hip hop too,
Oh, really?
especially the '90s. Especially the '90s, like Usher.
I am ashamed to admit this, but I was real into pop in the '90s. You probably figured that out when I said Backstreet Boys, but I was more into pop. I didn't really get into. Now I'm more into like just kind of alternative rock. That's why I listen to Coldplay, and I'm also into country rock, so I listen to the band Perry all the time. They're probably one of my favorite bands. But I don't know. Tell me if you're like this. Like I don't follow like a particular band. So like I like the band Perry. I like Toby Mac. I like Lindsey Sterling, Brainell, but I don't have like a favorite musician or singer. But I like songs. So like I don't religiously buy a Coldplay albums. But I'll download the song something that, just like this or clocks or something like that. Is that how you are? Or you're like, oh no, I have to have so and so's album.
No, you're right. I actually really like certain songs, like
Yeah,
just songs, just songs, not necessarily the whole album.
'cause I have a friend who, if she lived in L.A., she would stalk Justin Bieber. Like I don't know if he lives in L.A., but that's all pretty much all she listens to. It drives me crazy. But she's a friend of mine. She lives in Texas now, but she would totally stalk the Biebs if she had the opportunity.
Wow. Well, I'm sure she's not alone.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and what's crazy is she's my age. She's not even like a random teen girl. She's my age, and everything. So, but anyway, once again, I'm going to pivot a little bit. I am really excited for Alien Covenant, Wonder Woman, Justice League. Kind of excited for Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I'm kind of hesitant, and Spider-Man: Homecoming. Those are the big movies I'm really, especially Spider-Man: Homecoming. So, what are some movies that you are excited for? What's coming out that you're like, I'm gonna get a ticket to see?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm glad you asked because actually, I'm glad you listed those uh, movies because I really want to see Wonder Woman.
Yes, that's gonna be a
You gotta
great movie.
support
I hope.
women. I'm excited about that, and also I wanted to see Justice League. I like those comic movies.
Mhm.
They're really fun to watch. And hey, the Spider-Man Coming Home, is that from DC Comics?
No, that's Marvel. Homecoming. Spider-Man: Homecoming is Marvel.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. It is Marvel. It's the new Spider-Man, right?
Right. Yes.
The really really young one, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, then yeah, I'm excited to see him too.
What,
I thought he did a pretty good job with the latest Captain America movie.
yeah, I did too, and I'm glad they're doing the younger Spider-Man because me, whenever I grew up collecting Spider-Man comic books, and so I remember him being young. And I know that the Sam Raimi trilogy and then the one with Andrew Garfield, the two with Andrew Garfield, those were great movies, but it didn't have that nostalgia Spider-Man feel. Like they were trying to kind of modernize Spider-Man, but to me, both those film series kind of took it a little too far. So I'm excited to see like a more old school comic book style Spider-Man because that's how he was in Civil War at least. So
Yeah, yeah, he definitely gave that feeling. I hope I didn't. I hope I didn't. Yeah, I didn't mean to mistake the two comics, Marvel with the Spider-Man. I hope I
everyone,
didn't.
direct comments to Amy's YouTube channel about that. You know.
I hope it, I know that DC Comics and Marvel fans are just so, I know they're rival fans, so.
Oh, I have a friend who's diehard DC Comics, and I make him mad every time because if Batman was Marvel, I would be all Marvel. I would not even buy a DC comic. I to me the only besides Batman, the only other interesting DC character is Wonder Woman. I it probably if the two of them were Marvel, DC would be out of. I guess Superman would carry them a little bit, but honestly, I don't think anyone would be as excited for DC without Batman and Wonder Woman. To me, they're what make DC great.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're trying to. I think they're building the Justice League around those superheroes, and
Right.
I think they're kind of taking what the format of what Marvel has done
Yeah.
and kind of doing kind of the same thing with Justice League.
And one thing I'm hoping, because I have to admit this, whenever I first heard Gal Gadot was going to be Wonder Woman, I was not happy about it because the last thing I had seen her in was the Fast and Furious movies, and so I didn't deny. I think she's a really talented actress, but I was worried it would be kind of like Ryan Reynolds, where you have a talented thespian, but they're just kind of in the wrong role. But then when I saw Batman versus Superman, all my doubts went away. I think she's going to be a fantastic Wonder Woman.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think of casting Chris Pine along?
What do I think about what?
Oh, they casted Chris Pine alongside with her, right?
I think Chris Pine will make a good Steve Trevor. He seems. I noticed that. I know they're doing this because their Captain America was in World War II, but originally in the comic books, Wonder Woman comes to the world of man in World War II. So I think, but they backed it up to World War One because of they didn't want to copy Captain America. So I think that I think his casting is good because he kind of has that that 1910s look. You know, like kind of I don't know how to say that, but he kind of looks, that old school kind of rugged 1920s, 1910s, 1920s character.
He has. I think he's almost typecasted into like the pretty boy roles.
Yeah, I would agree. Captain Kirk and Steve Trevor, those two characters definitely like you said, the pretty boy kind of guy hanging out. Yeah, I would agree with that. I've I've never
Yeah.
seen him in a rugged role other than Unstoppable with Denzel Washington. They tried to make him kind of look like, not exactly so handsome and whatnot, just kind of a regular Joe, but they failed. I mean, it was a great movie. Unstoppable was a fantastic movie, but still, he still came off as the pretty boy.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of refreshing for, for not, because not that many movies have the Wonder Woman as the main primary superhero, and then the pretty boy, the man as, not the hero, not the one that saves the day. So it's refreshing to see that.
I have to admit, one of the only thing I'm concerned about this movie is because when
I
they were
hope that
first writing.
that's how it plays out, right? Let's just hope that that's how it plays out, right?
Yeah, exactly. The only thing I'm concerned about it was originally the script they said that it was going to be more of a fantasy movie. So like they were going to involve more of the Greek mythology behind Wonder Woman. But when what's her name, the director? I can't think of her name off the top of my head. But when she got a hold of the script, she's like, no, I want it to go back more to the vintage Wonder Woman. With the being involved in a world war and all this, and being a strong woman in an era where it was dominated by masculinity. Which I applaud that decision, but I just hope that when it we're not gonna miss out. Like I hope they do another Wonder Woman movie that focuses on her fantasy sort of background, if that makes sense, because I would like to see that part of her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she's just that is how
That would be cool.
everyone remembers Wonder Woman is as this fantasy character. Now she did go through several times where she was like a spy and all this, but I always think of her as the person who defeated Ares. You know, she's the one who defeated the god of war, which I think is pretty awesome. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
Amy, where can people find you?
Thanks, Jacob, for asking. Nice segue, right, from Wonder Woman to
I know. It's like
like
we go from talking about a fictional strong woman to I want to give
to a real one.
yeah, I want a real one. I want to give, and I do want to give Amy an opportunity to plug anything she wants. So, Amy, where can people find you? Let them know.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. So currently my YouTube channel is at youtube.com/Amy Lieu Media, AMYLIEUMEDIA, Amy Lieu Media, and I have my latest episodes and interviews up, and latest videos, reactionary videos, whatnot. And then also I'm going to be launching my iTunes podcast, video and audio podcast soon, as I was alluding to Jacob earlier. And that's also going to be, you can find it at Amy Lieu. Just type in Amy Lieu, and the podcast is called Amy Lieu Presents by Amy Lieu Media. So if you just type into Amy Lieu, you should be able to find that. And that's going to be launching very, very soon. And then also on my website, www.amylieu.com, amyliu.com. You can subscribe to my newsletter for the latest updates. I'll have exclusive content and have the latest updates on when my iTunes is launching, and also the latest videos, and also any other extra content. And my Instagram is instagram.com/Amy Lieu Media also. And there, as I was telling Jacob, you'll find empowerment quotes for both men and women, and just to inspire you for daily living. And that's usually every other post, and you can check it out there. And I'm also on Twitter, and I also have some sporadic Periscope videos up as well. So my handle is at Amy Lieu Media. I just want to, and that's pretty much it. I hope I didn't throw too much at you, Paul.
No. Like I said, shamelessly plug. And I would encourage my viewers, go check out Amy's YouTube channel. I highly recommend it. Follow her on Twitter. I do. Be sure to follow her there, just like she said, and also be sure to like and subscribe here at StudioJake. You can find me on Twitter at RealJacobAiry. Follow my blog. It's www.jacobairy.blog. And also, I want to remind everyone, my supernatural thriller Cacophony is out. You can get it on Amazon for paperback or for Kindle, so go check it out. Leave me a positive review, please. Amy, it was so great having you on. Thank you so much for coming on Studio Jake. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jake, for having me. It was such a pleasure, daughter.